And welcome back to Michigan Matters. We're now joined by Eric Poe, who's CEO of Kier Auto Insurance, who's here to talk about some bills in Lansing that are going to be impacting, potentially, consumers. We're going to talk about that. So great to have you back with us.
Thanks for having me, Karen.
How you been?
Good, good.
Well, I know when you're around, we're going to be talking about auto insurance rates. And one question that keeps coming up, and it's like we ask it, things get changed, but doesn't seem to get better, is Detroit remains one of the most expensive cities in the country to insure cars, with the average premium being around $5,600, which I think is about double the national average. The question remains, why?
Well, it's probably triple the national average. The reason why is there's a tremendous amount of fraud. And there's really no teeth in the law to allow for insurance carriers to go after the people that commit fraud. So in the state of Michigan, we have an Insured Fraud Act that only is reserved for the Attorney General to prosecute. But insurance companies are not having any of the benefits of the teeth of that law. So there's a lot of fraud that's going on. Michigan itself pays $2.4 billion a year in no fault, which is the same amount as New York. And New York has twice the population.
Wow. Well, and you also have been an advocate for helping to improve rates and going up around with legislators in Lansing, other states as well, because you're also in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. So let's talk about what's going on up in Lansing. And I know, for example, you were here last time. We were talking about towing and potential bills and what was taking place there in terms of fraud. Is there any update on that?
Yeah, so Detroit, our studies show the average tow in Detroit costs $3,500. So when you get in a car accident in Detroit, you have an option. The police officer can call a tow for you, and it's $200. Or if you get a private tow, somebody shows up and says, Carol, if you have car insurance, your tow is free. It's really not free. What happens is that tow yard kidnaps your car and tells your insurance carrier you got to pay an average of $3,500. So there's a bipartisan bill that was introduced by Steckloff and Harris, and it's going to make Michigan one of the strongest consumer protection states in the country for predatory tows.
Are you optimistic that that bill will make its way through?
I am optimistic only because there are so many nightmare stories from even legislators in the state of Michigan that personally have had their cars towed and face bills of $10,000.
Wow. There was another bill that kind of got some attention too is Senate Bill 329, which ends penalties and higher premiums for drivers who let their bills escape here. Anything new with that?
It's funny, it's a misnomer. I don't feel like that bill is going to go anywhere. It's one of those things where we're talking about the fact that people who don't pay their bills are paying a penalty for not paying their bills. But the reality is most of those people are not actually going to see any benefit from that bill.
Is there another bill? I know you were mentioning, I get my numbers all mixed up here, which bill is which, but there's another bill where talking about what providers can charge, medical providers can charge under no-fault insurance and having negative impact too.
Oh, tremendous negative impact. So I said earlier that Michigan car insurers pay $2.4 billion a year, which is why you have all those billboards by plaintiff attorneys all over TV commercials, because the system's broken. There's a lot of fraud. When you pay $2.4 billion and you have a bill to say that the amount that you should pay these providers should increase, it just translates to, what do? We just take those bills and we pass it on to people that buy insurance.
If you could wave a magic wand and change it so that this wouldn't happen, what would that one thing be?
It would be to go to arbitration. So when there's a dispute for medical benefits, simply go to arbitration like New York, New Jersey, not pay for attorneys. Right now, 87% of Wayne County has their courts on no-fault cases. So if you ended up having somebody do a garage addition to your house and you didn't get the addition done in time, and you wanted to sue them, you would have to wait 7 or 8 weeks just to hear your case, simply because right out of the gate, because there's so many no-fault cases in Wayne County. It's a terrible, terrible situation with how many lawsuits there are in the state of Michigan on just no fault.
Do you think most people understand no fault and auto insurance? I mean, when these different bills and things that they're doing, do you think it's kind of like going to the dentist? Things just get done, nobody wants to know specifically kind of thing?
Yeah, your previous guest actually brought it up, and he said, well, I thought the new law had all these new options. Why can't I save a lot of money? I said, well, when your agent or broker actually gets paid a commission, if you choose an option and it lowers your rate 40%, just know that your agent is going to lose 40% of his income. So the options aren't being used. 82% of all Michiganders still choose choose unlimited no fault, despite the fact that there are all these other options can allow your health insurance become the carrier that pays for you when you're involved in a car accident in your treatment. So they're just being underutilized.
How does Michigan compare to other states in terms of this, in terms of the sophistication of consumers understanding this?
Well, at least I think they know that it's a broken system. I don't think they know how to solve it because very often our problem isn't catastrophically injured people. That tends to be the narrative that's given. It's really the chiropractor bills, the pain management bills, the wage loss bills that people claim for 3 years. In Michigan, we have the highest wage loss claim coverage, meaning that if you get in a car accident and you're working at Starbucks making $35,000 a year, you literally can file for a wage loss claim for 3 years, totaling $100,000 on that claim from your car insurer. No state has that type of coverage. So when you're buying and forcing people to buy this coverage, that rate is going to go up simply because the coverage is so big.
Wow, so much more here. All right, we're going to take a quick break here. We'll be back with more Michigan Matters right after this. Welcome back to Michigan Matters. We're continuing the conversation with Eric Poe of Cure Auto Insurance. Cure has actually been on the market here since 2021?
Yes, July
okay.
21.
And I think I read you have 234,000 drivers in Michigan with 6,700 in Michigan. Those numbers still accurate?
Well, we insured that many over the last 4 years. But now we have about 100,000 currently.
Currently. And how many specifically in the Detroit area?
I'd say about 65,000.
Okay. And I know that you deal with other states here. I'm just curious, with all this talk about reform, given that the average consumer, I just don't think the average person is paying too close attention to this. How easy is it to get the attention of legislators who are the ones controlling these laws?
Very, very hard because, like you said, it's complex. But the easiest way to say it is this. There's only 13 states that have no fault in the whole country, right? And what it does is it simply says your car insurer becomes your health insurer if you ever get medical treatment involved in an injury from a car accident. That's the only thing that you should understand. But the problem is car insurers can't negotiate what treatment will be like your health insurer. So we don't have the ability to direct where somebody's going to go seek treatment. And so what happened is if there's not really good laws, they end up abusing it. So there are providers that abuse it. There are law firms that tell when you get injured to go to certain chiropractors that only do treatment for people. And so there's a whole mechanism and scheme that's orchestrated that costs Michiganders 45% of what you pay for car insurance in Michigan right now is to pay for no-fault coverage.
Well, and you also, as I mentioned, you testify. You've been in Washington testifying in other states about this. So this is obviously a national problem.
Yes. This is the worst state in the United States by far. So when you look at what the average cost
the worst state
in the whole United States for no fault, and the worst state for the highest cost for car insurance in the United States of America. And we're not in a hurricane belt. So, if I were a person living in Michigan, I'd ask, why is my car insurance so expensive? We don't live in a hurricane belt. What makes it so high? It's the same answer as to why you see only commercials and billboards in the state that are plaintiff personal injury.
A lot of lawyer commercials on with all of this here. Well, speaking of reaching consumers, you have really set the tone of reaching your consumers via sports celebrities. You have Jared Goff of the Lions and Tarek Skubal of the Tigers, and you've had the Pistons, Cade Cunningham. What is it about sports celebrities that works for you in terms of helping to promote? And you do this nationally, too.
Yeah, I think it's the people that we choose. So Jared Goff, Amon-Ra, Jahmyr Gibbs, these people, Tarek Skubal, Torkelson, the character of those people, I think that when you watch them every day and you watch the season unfold, you see the type of character they are. And I think it's important to make sure you marry that type of person with your brand. So Detroit people are diehard fans.
Yes.
I've become a diehard Lions fan. I have to be honest with you, a diehard Tigers fan.
What about Red Wings and Pistons?
I'm not a hockey fan, although I'm considering being one. And I do love Cade and I love the Pistons.
Yeah, and when it comes to doing business here, how have you found being a new company, 3 years compared to some others who've been here 100 years, in the auto insurance business, how do you find doing business in Michigan?
I think business is great, except for the underbelly of the no-fault system. So it's unbelievable.
But that's why you came here, though, right?
Yes. I was unaware that the system was so, I guess, rigged, if you will. I mean, we even have judges in the state of Michigan, which is unusual, that are elected. So when you elect a judge, I think it becomes a little more difficult to understand why the courts aren't ruling certain ways. And then you realize that there's a big uphill battle in Lansing, as well as electing the right judges.
Yeah. So as we sit here, we're winding down 2025. Pretty much the next few weeks are going to be winding down the year. We're now looking into 2026. As you look out over the landscape of what's ahead in this arena coming out of Lansing, what do you see as far as this kind of regulation?
Well, I think we can only take small nibbles at what we can accomplish because we have a Republican House and we have a Democratic Senate. So very hard to get meaningful reform if the people that bet on the no-fault system staying the same are against one side. And so I think it's going to be very difficult to see any changes until the new election. But that election in 26 is going to be very important for the future of commerce in the state of Michigan, in my opinion.
Are you getting involved? Are you getting involved politically? Are you endorsing anyone, for example, in the governor's race?
Well, no, I won't. I'll try to stay out of that type of thing, but I will always try to tell people who's going to be the best for making sure car insurance stays as low as it can be in the state of Michigan.
Well, you actually worked with Mike Duggan when he is Detroit mayor and deciding to come in here. In fact, didn't he convince you to come into
Yeah, so
Detroit?
Mike Duggan is by far the most knowledgeable candidate on no fault. So from my perspective, he understands the fraud and abuse. So it's not an educational process if he became the governor. So I know that he knows what it takes to make Michigan not the highest cost for car insurance in the country. So.
And there's much more to say about that. So let me go back here for sports for a second. Last year, I believe you picked the winning Super Bowl team and the MVP to appear in a commercial. You decided this before that last game was even played, right?
Yes.
Okay, so what are you predicting for the upcoming Super Bowl?
Well, I don't want to mush. I don't want to mush. The bettors will say mushing, but I really do believe the Lions are going to win the Super Bowl this year, and I do think that either one of the three players, either Goff, Amon-Ra,
you got
or
you got it all covered. Okay, so good money after bad. Put it on. If you have to pick one player, who are you thinking is going to be that?
Well, statistics will show you that the quarterback wins the MVP like 85% of the time. So if I had to bet the money, it would be Jared.
Okay, well, we'll see. Well, I sure hope you're right. It'd be nice to see the Lions. They're the city has been waiting for this for God knows how many decades here.
Yes.
Anyways, but you feel upbeat about Michigan as far as doing some changes in 2026.
I'm hoping.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I know there's so much more to say, but we are out of time. But thank you so much for being here. I appreciate that. And we'll have you back again to talk about some of this after the new year, too, to talk about what's developing up in Lansing.
Thank you.
All righty. Appreciate it. Again, thanks to you at home for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your day. And we will see you next Sunday for a little bit more Michigan Matters.